Good morning. How are you today? Well, it's a little chilly, but it's very comfortable. The sun's out, and tomorrow, Sunday, it's supposed to be 85, so we can start complaining about the heat. And what happened to our spring? I apologize for my battery running out yesterday. Maybe I should have noticed it, but I didn't. And so my last pondered wonderment about what was going on involving Rudy was lost, even to me, because I don't recollect it. But the only other thing I was going to say was, I'll see you today, and here I am. So Rudy is still in the news. Rudy wants to hold a press conference and has been talking, I don't know how freely, but he's been talking. And that's an unusual thing for a subject of an investigation to do. But these guys, at one point they asked me what I thought about Rudy's defense of the president and others, and I said he should be arrested for impersonating a lawyer. And I think that continues. His stance has been things like, in my day as a U.S. attorney, we respected the privilege of a lawyer. This just wouldn't happen. Well, I served at the same time as he did, and I had a case involving a grand jury tampering investigation. And a former, let me just not describe the person, a lawyer, and this case is reported publicly, but not the name of the lawyer. He was approached by his client, who was the defendant in the matter, and the defendant said to him that he'd been in touch with the jury. And being in touch with the jury while the trial is going on is an ongoing violation. That is interference with the jury. Now, the lawyer, he did the right thing. He told the prosecutor, and then they both presented it to the judge, and that juror was removed from the case. And I wasn't the lawyer on the trial, but I was assigned the jury tampering investigation. So I asked the lawyer to go before the grand jury and testify about this. And he first said yes and then said no. And so we had an argument in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in New York. And the court decided, rightly, that he had to testify because it wasn't privilege, because it occurred while they were in a counselor-client relationship. And you cannot use the privilege to conceal an ongoing fraud. Okay, so we did do it in those days. And if Rudy has used that relationship, calling it counseling, when it conceals crimes, there is no privilege. And that's why there is a filter team that's going to look at all the information, separate from the prosecution team, and make judgments as to what can be turned over to the prosecution team. But that review will be presented to the court where there's any conflict with Rudy's attorney. So the privilege is protected. This is not a new rule, it's an old rule. And it's Rudy, again, trying to mislead us. Now, another thing that I find, and I don't know how to describe it. I suffer bafflement that the coverage is, the Russians tried to influence Rudy like he didn't know what was going on. And they were giving him this information about Biden's son, Hunter, and that was to affect Biden running for president. Stop the music. Rudy was collaborating with the Russians. He wasn't used by the Russians, just as in 2016, the Russians helped Trump win. They were prepared to do it again and to try to compromise the candidate that was believed to be the worst opponent that Trump could be up against in the general election. So stop saying like they were used. They weren't. They were using each other is the best description. And let's talk about these things in real terms. I mean, we had an impeachment that involved what was going on there. And, the result was wrong. The charges were right. And when the Senate was warned that he'll do it again, we ended up having another impeachment proceeding. And this one was about the attack on the Capitol on January the 6th. But what I see that is positive here is the search warrant sought and granted by the court is a step toward the rule of law. Whereas for years, we have been away from the rule of law. So I think that that's very important, that there is no protection when you use the privilege to commit an ongoing crime. And anything that gets into the prosecution from these seizures will fit that profile. And it was the same problem, if you remember, Cohen had. They did exactly the same exercise then. And somewhere in that process, they decided that it was better to plead guilty and to find another path for Cohen. And that's what they did. Last observation I have is Stephanie Ruhle gave a terrific analysis of Scott's answer to Biden this past week, in which, as the Republican, a person of color as well, he basically gave the partisan Republican line. And the way she summed it up, and I won't paraphrase it because it was beautifully written and well delivered. It was the equivalent of, yes, he is a person of color, but his position ignores the plight of persons of color. And to be against internal improvements, if you will, infrastructure, again, it's no. The Republican Party is not there for the people, and that should be marked, and that we should know. And that's why the people are saying to Biden and to his team and to people on the Hill, forget the Republicans. They're not going to come. Act on the infrastructure bill. Structure it so we have the Democrats, and go ahead. That's it. So, okay, that's enough of my talk today. My battery's not out of gas, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'll probably be wearing a bathing suit walking the roads if it's as warm as they say. Bye-bye.